What is the ideal coin distribution? So, coin distribution, methods of distribution, the way that assets are distributed when it comes to blockchain has been a very hotly contested subject, a contested subject of debate almost since the very early days of crypto itself. I believe I was reading the this was on the original cryptography mailing list with Satoshi in it, and even back then they were having discussions about coin distribution, who was going to be able to get all of the coins, centralization aspects of who would own these things, and so this really is a discussion that goes back to as far as that. And the answer that Satoshi gave was, well, I don't actually care. No one cares. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. The answer is whoever's doing the most proof of work deserves to get all of the coins. So this is obviously one way of looking at the problem, and this was the Satoshi method, the Satoshi response. But I did want to make a video that looked at a few other ways that people have been trying to do coin distributions ever since, and also ask the question of if there is a perfect method of doing a coin distribution. Is there a better method? Are there better ways of doing exactly what we set out to do, which is distribute an asset to as many parties as possible, or as many interested parties as possible? And these are different questions, and these are different relevant questions that deserve to be asked. So the problem, I think, in general, it boils down to how do you get these assets that are worth dollars in the case of altcoins. Obviously, you don't want to trade things that are completely worthless. Most altcoins have a US dollar value attached to them. Now, those values are volatile and they change, but they are valuable in that sense. So the question is, how do you get those coins into the right hands, and how do you keep them away from the wrong hands? And moreover, what are the wrong hands? So in some cases, you could even think of the wrong hands as what a lot of people will do, and generally the big target for this is rich whales. So a lot of people will do in traditional crypto is they'll say, well, we want to prevent whales from getting all of the circulating supply. We want to prevent whales from getting all of the coins in the distribution. We want there to be a very widespread distribution, something that's not so top down where it's 1% owns 90% of the coins or something like that, which really is very reminiscent of the generally how the US financial system works and how most other financial systems work under capitalism. There's really this amassing of wealth in the top 5 to 1% of individuals that own most of the wealth, and the rest is just distributed sparsely amongst the rest of the constituency, which is obviously, as far as blockchain is concerned, a problem, and certainly in the real world it's a problem, because we have all of this value that is being funneled into one individual or a very centralized set of individuals who cannot possibly spend all of this money in the right way, who cannot possibly benefit from having billions of dollars. You have to think of it this way: if you have $1 billion and you're going to make $1 billion next year, what is that going to do for your life? How is that going to improve your life, your chance at life, your chance at happiness? It's not really going to do much of anything for you, actually. It's just going to be another $1 billion that's added to your coffers. And unfortunately, the way that human greed works is the number can always go up. Numbers are infinite. And so we always want to have more, even if we're the rich whales, even if we're the richest guy in the world. We can always, we just can't, we can't turn down the temptation of picking up a free $100 bill that's on the ground. And so in this way, people who have large investments will make more money over time and centralize even more of the money. So this coin distribution problem is something that applies outside of crypto, but also has been something that has been tackled in crypto, because in crypto, we really do have the opportunity that we otherwise would not have had in the real world to create these different altcoins, these different methods of distribution that can only exist in crypto, that we can actually test and verify whether these actually work or not. So the first method, again, the Satoshi method, is the proof of work. Proof of work tried to solve this problem by saying whoever is going to do the most work is going to get the most coins. The problem with that, obviously, is it centralizes control amongst the very rich people who can afford to have mining farms, who can afford to have very large nodes, who can afford to have these pools. So we're looking at entities like Bitmain, for example, people who can purchase ASICs, for example, people and entities who can get electricity very cheap. So, and how do you get electricity very cheap? Is through economies of scale. How do you get economies of scale? Well, you have to spend a lot of money. How do you get a lot of money? Well, you have to be a rich whale. So if you're a rich whale, Here's how you can get a lot more Bitcoin. So proof of work doesn't really solve this problem. The other thing that we've seen tried, and we've seen this tried a lot more recently. There's a lot more of these coins than proof of work coins in general is proof of stake. So the way that proof of stake works is you have a certain amount of money that you stake that is your own from your own wallet onto the network. You say, I'm going to wager my $100, and the network rewards you for staking that $100. And you perhaps at the end of the year, you get some kind of APR, usually 5%, 10%, whatever it may be. I think most proof of stake are between 5 and 10%. So if you put in $100 after a year's time, you're going to get 5% back. You're going to get $105, at least in tokens. The USD value might change, but the actual tokens will have that APR. Now, conceptually, I'm sure you can already see the problem with this. If you want to avoid the problem of the rich getting richer with proof of work, proof of stake is really just the same thing, because if you have a certain amount of coins, the more coins you have, obviously, the higher APR you're going to get on an objective scale. So even if me, who is a mega rich whale, has the same 5% interest rate as someone who is as 10 people who have much smaller accounts, because I'm mega rich, my 5% is worth way more than those other guys. And so I maintain my supremacy over the entire system because of the fact that I am staking so much. So proof of stake, again, doesn't really solve the problem. And so those are the two main ones that we've seen. We've seen proof of work try it. We've seen proof of stake try it. None of them really have been able to solve this coin distribution problem. So since then, we haven't really seen anything. However, we have seen different kind of much more experimental methods of doing distributions. So now we've seen things like forks. So the way a fork works is, well, we're going to take everything, the Bitcoin blockchain, for example, we're going to fork it. So however many Bitcoins you have now is however many Bitcoins you're going to have onto this new chain. And this new chain is going to be perhaps a completely different chain, or maybe it's just going to be a standard vanilla fork, as in the case with Bitcoin Cash, for example, where it's just changing a very small thing. In Bitcoin Cash's example, the block size. The problem with that, again, if you already have rich whales, all you're doing is you're copying the amount of money that the rich whales have. So you're copying their distribution methods or the distribution network. You're not really innovating that space very much at all. There's another method of distribution that we have seen that is recent. So this is the last one that I can come up with. And I don't know if there's any more, just leave something in the comment and let me know, because I'm very interested in this question. But the last one that I've seen is lockups. So Edgeware is doing this, to where you can choose to lock up a certain amount of Ethereum that you have, and then that will unlock and enable you to receive a certain amount of Edgeware, which is going to be a completely different token on a completely different mainnet, completely different network. And so you are opting in to have a distribution of coins rather than doing it through a mandatory fork where everyone who is on the network gets coins, even those people who don't care about it or don't want it. Only the people who care about it and only the people who want it are going to get these lockups, who are going to participate in these lockups and get these coins. Now, in theory, this is better because it means that people who perhaps would have less money on Bitcoin, as relative percentage-wise, are able to have more on this new network because, again, not everyone is going to participate on this new network. So that means everyone who is participating on the new network gets a little bit more percentage relative, which is great in that case. However, again, you still come across this problem of the rich get richer because obviously if you have a lot of coins, you're going to get more by locking up your coins. So this is seen with Edgeware. So I don't know what the Edgeware lockup is, but it's I think it's something like $100 million of Ethereum or some insane amount like that. It's quite a lot actually. So people taking advantage of this, obviously, even people who are just looking to get these tokens just to sell them on the market in this case. Or possibly, who knows? That remains to be seen. But so those are the main methods of distributions, and there's some smaller ones which I'll get to in a bit. But the question really is, we've seen 4 of these methods of distribution. Is there really such a thing as a perfect distribution? What does that even mean? Is there such a thing? And so that's a very hard question to ask. And I would say generally, there really is no such thing as a perfect distribution because the meaning is always going to be subjective, and it's always going to be specific to your context. And so this is where we can actually get a fundamentally viable answer to, can you create a perfect distribution? The question is actually not, can we create a perfect distribution? The question is, first, let's define our objectives. What do you want to do with your blockchain? What do you want to do with this distribution? What do you want the people to actually accomplish? So first question, very simple. Do you want as many people as possible to get their hands on your tokens? Well, then you can do a very simple form of distribution called airdrops. You know what airdrops are? Airdrops are, I'm going to have my certain amount of tokens and I'm just going to give them indiscriminately to either whoever signs up to my website or whatever addresses I can find on Ethereum blockchain if I'm doing an ERC20 airdrop, or any kind of method where I can distribute, or Twitter, for example, submissions like that. I can do airdrops to people without them having to put any kind of money up, without having to copy a network where perhaps rich whales already exist. But I can give everyone a fair shot of getting the exact same amount of coins through this airdrop. So that's a very innovative way of doing it. Airdrops, obviously, not necessarily a blockchain innovation. We have seen airdrops with things like PayPal, for example. PayPal, when it was new, was giving airdrops in this way of $20 or something like that. It was a certain amount of money. I do believe it was $20 for everyone who signed up. So all you had to do was sign up and you got this airdrop of actual dollars, actual USD, which was very pivotal in getting PayPal off the ground. So this is obviously something that works. Airdrops do work. So you can create an airdrop. Do you want to target a certain audience in particular? So then there's grants that you can do, which is very similar to airdrops, but different. It's more developer focused. Again, developer funds. So you can do funds for developers. If you want to get people like who perhaps would never have a chance to buy all these tokens, who don't have any kind of money at all, not only you can do airdrops, you can also do faucets. So faucets grant a lot of coins. You can even do simple proof of work, human proof of work, like what Rayblox did. If you don't know what Rayblox is, you might know it by its current name, Nano. What they had a while ago was just solving CAPTCHAs. If you solved a bunch of CAPTCHAs, you got a certain amount of Ryblocks. You got something like 10 Ryblocks or something for each CAPTCHA that you solved, or each set of CAPTCHAs. And so this was obviously, it's a good way of getting all of the Indians to get a good distribution of your coin. But certainly it's another method of distribution, which is another tool in the tool belt. So again, ultimately, I don't think there really is a perfect distribution. There's a lot of people who, smarter people than myself, who look at distribution as this problem that we need to solve, as this game theory that has an ultimate final state where everything is fair and everything is awesome for everyone and everybody wins and nobody loses. But I don't really think that exists. I think this is kind of, again, it's a very subjective thing, first of all. And secondly, if you accept that it's a subjective thing, then it allows you to actually create subjective cases and subjective distributions that actually fit your criteria and fit your objective for whatever it is that you want to do on your chosen coin or chain. So again, does a perfect distribution exist? I don't think there is one. Certainly not one for crypto. Certainly not one that we have seen so far. But we should always gear our distributions towards the actual purpose of our coin or chain. This video was sponsored by Cryptowatch. Are you a crypto degen? Do you spend countless hours in front of your PC babysitting your leverage trades? Well, babysit no longer. With Cryptowatch, you can spend countless hours in the comforts of your own bed, waiting for those SMS alerts. Track how wrecked your portfolio is that week with their portfolio tracker. And you can also check the price of your favorite shitcoins. If you'd like to join Cryptowatch, there's a link in the description below. Happy trading!